Welcome to What Have You with Rachel Jankovic and Rebecca Merkel. This audio is brought to you by Canon Press.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
It's a beautiful day in Idaho.
It is. It's kind of chilly, actually, but it's
Windy.
It's pretty.
But it's pretty. If
really
you're
pretty.
in a wind-sheltered environment, you can enjoy the view.
Like a car.
Yeah, exactly like this car. So I was telling Becca on our way here, when we were driving out, I was having a little reminisce. And in case you guys don't remember this from your own childhood.
How did I not know this?
I don't know.
It feels like the kind of fact that I would have remembered if I had ever known it.
Yeah, so one of my daughters was joking, and I think this may be a quote from something else or something that somebody told her, or the cousins. I don't know. A few listeners all know where this originated.
It's probably a meme from
Yeah,
somewhere.
it was sort of like, what are some of your skills? Like a resume skills situation of saying, I can tell real butter from I can't believe it's not butter. So, I can't believe it's not butter came up in our lives for the first time.
In a while.
In many moons. And I was like, oh, yeah, Fabio. And
And your kid...
my kids all gave me a total flat face of like, Fabio, what does that even mean,
Well,
Mom?
when Rachel brought this up, I was like...
Becca, you could see
I
Becca
had
going into the time machine trying...
that Fabio is a person that exists.
But Fabio, even in the
he's
heyday...
probably still around somewhere.
Yeah, but even in the heyday...
Where is Fabio?
Maybe he does things at casinos right now.
Probably.
Maybe in the heyday of Fabio, even in his real prime time, I never understood how Fabio had gained any momentum anywhere.
But also, like, what was it he did other than
I don't
just
know.
kind of be
I
himself?
think he did. I can't believe it's not butter commercials. He probably posed for the fronts of grocery store romance novels.
I think that's how I picture
I think that's
him.
what he was. I think he was a model for the Bodice Buster novels, and then did other important work with butter alternatives. But the thing,
I can't believe that you remember that.
But the thing that really brought it all back on, and so I was like, wait. The really important reason we knew about the contribution to life that Fabio was for all of us was when he was opening a roller coaster. I'm totally going to be getting all the details wrong, even though I just Googled the news story to tell my children. He was opening a roller coaster, and I thought he was dressed as a Greek god, but I don't think he was. He looked like he was just in a button-up shirt. But it was a roller coaster that was called like Apollo's Chariot. Or something like that. It was a Greek god reference. And there were a bunch of women in Greek goddess outfits around him. So he himself was not. Maybe he just was supposed to be godlike in his
Fabio
street clothes. I don't know. Yeah. But they're doing an inaugural ride. And just because God loves us, Fabio killed a goose with his face. I cannot imagine anything more painful than hitting a goose with your face on a roller coaster. And he came back in from his first ride, the maiden voyage of Apollo's Chariot, with blood all over his face, and I think all over one of the Greek goddesses behind him. But I don't know this, but I assume that the blood was from his own nose, because I think he probably just hit the goose hard enough to kill it, but I think it would be your nose that would really bleed if you killed a goose with it.
Oh, my land. That is so funny. I can't stand how hilarious that is. And
It's just like the Lord lobbed a goose. It's so much like having a stick stuck in the spokes of a bike, you know? Like, just like, go be glorious on this roller coaster.
with the hair flying in the wind.
With your bedazzling self. And just face plant a poor goose. Never saw that coming. Anyways, that's just like one of the things that happened in the world that you just can't forget how much good there really is out there.
And if you ever considered not being a Calvinist, I hope you'll remember that story.
Or if you slip into the bad life of thinking that God isn't funny. Like that God isn't like isn't enjoying things. You just think, no, he did that. He really for reals did that. That was very carefully planned and executed.
Oh, wow. And see, all this came to me fresh today, you guys, because I forgot that Fabio
came upon me all at once yesterday.
Was a thing, and I never knew about his time on the Chariot of Apollo.
Yeah.
Oh, heavens.
Yep, that happened. And it's just good to remember. So it's good to, like, think one time in history that happened, and it's important.
Oh, gosh. All right. If we were really good, we would have had a good spiritual moral to draw. But
there's nothing other than God is more fun than we are. Left to our own devices, we'd all be like Fabio.
Yeah.
But the Lord doesn't allow it.
The goose is always there to take us down a peg.
Oh, my word.
Wow.
So a long time ago, I'd seen a video that I just shared with some friends because in our conversation it came up. So I was like, oh, you guys should watch this. It was one from a Operation, it's Christmas Child, that, Christmas boxes for kids. And, but it was a video of this 100-year-old woman who was sewing 100 dresses to put in boxes for little girls.
Okay.
Well, she's incredibly magnificent. She's like, everything is dear about her. Like, really sweet. And she's 100, and her husband died when he was 36 of a, massive heart attack. And at least one of her daughters has already passed away. Like, and she's just being so sweet, singing, and wake up pretty early between 2 and 4 most days and just get started. Word. She says, the Lord gave me hands without arthritis, so I'm gonna use them. And it's just really an absolutely precious little video.
Okay.
But there's this moment, and I recommend you all go look that up because it's amazing. It's just so good. But then there's a follow-up video because that one went viral and everything. So there's a follow-up video where they want to show her how impactful this video was that they did in the first place.
Okay.
And so she's sitting there clearly not tracking with it at all. In the sense of when they're like, do you have any idea how many people saw that video we made of you?
Okay.
She was like, I would have no idea how to even begin guessing that. And they're like 9.4 million or something people had watched this video of her. And she just kind of gets a sort of faraway look. And it's so cute because it's so somewhere between I don't believe you, but also but why does it matter? But also also that seems really significant somehow. You can tell that it's just not all lining up. And she is very cutely moved by it. She says there's a lot of messages from people. Anyway, she says, I just hope more people come to know Jesus. She's just a really sweet lady.
Okay.
But that moment where she's so not you can just tell that's a world she can't imagine. She can't imagine any of the, and I was thinking it's like a really neat little picture of what I imagine it will sort of be for all of us as we see what God was actually doing with, like, where she, I think, was totally into the work of sewing dresses for 100 little girls who might need a dress, and it might make them happy that they got a little dress. And then she's finding out that there's this whole other scene, and there's all these comments from people like, you know, I'm disabled and I'd been feeling sorry for myself, but your video was so encouraging and challenging, and it was like you could see that it was sort of like she's looking through a tiny portal into what was actually happening when she was just doing this.
Yeah.
She's just caught up in her faithful work and singing her song and doing her stuff. And I was just thinking that that's kind of like, it's like that's when we get to heaven, we will see more of what God was doing.
Yeah. And how good it is that we don't see it now, or we'd be so captivated.
We would never be looking at what we're supposed to be doing. And that was part of the thing, is she was so clearly over herself. Like, she's had enough of a life to not, she's not thinking that she's the end all be all. You know, she's like still throwing in front of most comments, unless the Lord takes me home, because at any second you might be called out of this business. Well, right. But it is so true that we can't see the vast majority of what's actually happening with our lives. And then if we do get distracted with that we still can't have, even being distracted with it can't give you the vision for it. You can't understand it.
Right.
You could just spend all your time not doing what you are actually supposed to be doing because you're wanting to look off at the bigger picture. I've been thinking this, like, especially right now, social media seems like a uphill slog in a bog right now.
feels to me like
more than social media. The news
would like to leave that door shut.
Oh, it's just like gracious heavenly day.
I just feel like I'm gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go out to my garden and have a look-see at the kale. And never you mind
what dark deeds are happening on the internet.
Wow.
Well,
it is
outrageous. It is, but one of the reasons I brought this up is that I think there's this is what I thought we should talk about. And that is that there's this weird, what I would say is that in every Christian life you have to have a balance between knowing what is happening. It's sort of, I guess I would say, being in the world but not of the world. Being aware of what is happening in the world, but not being driven around by what is happening in the world, right? Like, needing to, it's not obviously sinful to know what's going on. But I think that most of us probably have an understanding in our own makeup. There is a transition point from it being useful knowledge to it being massively unuseful.
Well, I think sometimes too you can get into a thing where you just keep reading about it, but the only thing it's doing is feeding a really unhealthy anger or fear or anxiety or whatever. It's very different than, wow, look what is happening in the world, and now I'm going to go and have my coffee.
Well, I guess,
you know.
Yes, because if you're like, I know in my own life, there's a certain amount of like, okay, so that's what's happening. But there's another layer where if you dug another layer deeper into like, so what I'd really like to do is wallow around in what's happening in the world.
That's what I mean.
Well,
it's
then
like
you can only do that if you're not being faithful in your actual life. Like, because for me to do that would be for me to turn away from what I should be doing.
Because it's like, are you a journalist? No. Are you a political commentator? No. Are you a senator? No.
Well, it's sort of like if you were, I'm trying to think, like, say you bought a house that needed to be renovated. And you know it needs to be renovated. Everybody knows this. This is what you did when you got it.
You're speaking words that I identify with.
In a minute I'm going to go beyond words you identify with. And let's say that in your moments of evaluating the situation, you find that there has been thousands of rats living in the cellar of this place. Well, like the first time you find the rat poop, it might be worth your time to evaluate it.
Yeah.
Like to be like,
Yeah.
okay, there's a rat poop problem. Something's happening here.
Yeah.
What does it mean, and how can we prevent it? And how can we not make ourselves ill by the effects of
Yeah.
this? But that's a whole other thing than like devoting yourself to putting on a headlamp and inventorying every piece of rat poop you can locate in the cellar and yelling to everybody else, "Here's another piece!" It's like, no, we've established that there is a rat problem. Like, let's just, having established that, let's work on having it not be a rat problem rather than. Okay, that's what I meant by like wallowing around in it. And the reason I think that this is important is because I think that this is a fundamental, like, it's really important to think about what was it that Jesus tells us to do, and what does the word tell us to do. And it's not that work of like if I was to get up every day to check what lesbian bishops are doing somewhere, then I am not doing what I've been called to do.
No.
And for me to be focused on that is actually taking away your focus on other things.
Totally.
You don't have endless focus capacity.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So I guess I just have been thinking about the difference between being proactively faithful, which requires having some knowledge of what's going on around you, and being reactively, I wouldn't even call it faithful, but I think it means to be faithful. So I mean, but being reactively motivated by the world versus being proactively motivated and aware of the world.
Right. No, it's true. And this is a very strangely off from your metaphor. This is a weird tangent, but
just start a new metaphor if you get sick of my old one.
Well, I don't know. I feel like, can we tie this into your metaphor? I don't know. But yesterday, something real weird came upon me accidentally. I have some big sage in my garden, and sage coming up everywhere now. Volunteer sage.
I think I'm wondering, are you finding out that people burn this to cast out evil spirits?
Yes.
Yeah. You were probably Googled what are things we do with sage?
It was some kind of a like little article, and it was this pretty picture, and it was sage, and it had something about, I can't remember. Whatever it was, I was like, oh, look, something to do with sage. I'll look at that. And it started off, I did not see this coming.
I've actually had a really similar time with this.
It's called smudging. And it started off with, here are some great health benefits, and it's like antibacterial.
And it's hardly even involves worshiping false gods.
Well, no, because like I thought it was some kind of like a, I don't know, like a scented candle sort of thing maybe, or something, Well, and it starts off using words that are
normal.
Like antibacterial. Then we started getting into some negative ions, and I started being like, and then we started getting into some negative energy, and then it was like, okay, now we're weird. And then it was how you must revere it because it is a Native American something, which means you must always do it in a place of reverence in your house above waist height. And I was like, what? And then it started telling you that you needed to begin at the front door.
And then at that point, you're like, what hellhole have I fallen into?
Yeah, you got to meditate for a minute. Then you burn your sage and you waft the smoke up and down from your toes to your head. And then you stand here and then you process that way. And then you do it in the corners, and you have to go around the seal of every window. And then when you come out, and by this time I'm hooked. I'm like, what is going on? And when you
Becca's
leave,
like, I have a new Etsy business.
I know. And when you leave the room, you request that it be shut and sealed so that, I guess, no negative energy can squirt back in there. But anyway, then by the time you get all the way around to the front door again, you've done your deed, I guess.
Yeah.
You push it. You're supposed to push the negative energy clockwise around and back out the front door. Well, then it said, you really want to consider doing this obviously anytime you move into a new house.
Yeah, clearly.
Or anytime you've had an argument in your house. You're going to want to get your sage out and cleanse the scene.
I'd like to just draw your attention to the fact that there'd be no faster track to an argument in your house than to start wafting burning sage around.
Well, it's to get rid of...
Your kids would have to do a full Athanasius on you.
Any kind of aftermath in the energy fields from an argument you've got to get rid of with some sage. Then
I actually think I also, the reason I knew anything of this is because something about burning sage sounded fun to me. Like it was sometimes ooh, you can burn it for a nice smell. And you're like, wait a minute.
I know, but it was the weirdest. And if you buy an antique, it might have been around some real negative energy. So you're going to want to waft it about with some smoke. But it was just so, I was thinking of your pest. You have a pest in the house. There are ways of dealing with it that are effective. And then there are ways of dealing with it that are not effective. Yeah. And trying to get after your attitude problems with an herb and a smoke is just not the way forward.
I was telling Megan what I can't even believe is that I was like, yeah, I looked at a couch that I was thinking about buying. I didn't even do anything. I looked at it, and now my inbox is full of updates about what the CEO of my potential couch manufacturing business is doing about race relations. Guess what? It isn't. It is not the gospel. Whatever any of them are doing, it is not the gospel.
It might have something to do with some
which
sage.
Means it's as weird as Christians trying to fix the negative aura of their sin problems in the house with a burning herb.
With smudging it.
It's like, actually, guys, you know that the sin has a solution.
Yes.
And we call ourselves Christians because allegedly we live by that solution. And that means that we don't get cowed into pretending that Jesus is actually not enough for these things.
Right.
We must come in with sage. He's
and a smudge stick.
Yeah, Jesus is insufficient for your antiques baggage. I'm gonna have to burn some sage. There's just a lot, but there's so many Christians right now who have been weirdly maneuvered into thinking that the only way to behave like a Christian is to
do what the world tells you to do.
Do what you're told ASAP.
Yep.
And preferably, the faster you do it, the more authentic your faith will appear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyways, it's a weird time to be alive, but it's also a really, really good time to share the gospel and to know the gospel and to be profoundly unashamed of the gospel.
And unfearful, because that is the
driving.
It's kind of equal parts fear. There's a lot of that. Then there's a lot of rage. There's a lot of bitterness. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of...
I ran into a Christian thing somewhere that was like a prayer of repentance for the church about this. And it really hurts to look at. It's like, oh my word. I don't even know where to look with it. Honestly, I like a lot of this stuff. I'm just, it was a prayer of repentance, but it basically says, Lord, forgive us. So it's a prayer of corporate repentance.
Okay.
And it's saying, forgive us
on behalf of the church, or?
Yeah, it's just, Christians. It seemed like that's what it's saying, the church.
We the body.
We have not viewed our black and brown brothers and sisters as made in the image of God, or we have not been treating them. And you know what makes me really annoyed about that?
I know.
I'll tell you the part that just cheesed me off big time is, how dare you write a corporate prayer from the church assuming that it doesn't include black and brown people. Like, because
Yes.
that's the
Yes.
thing. It's like, I've never heard of anything
So
whitier than that. And it's allegedly a prayer of repentance about our whitiness. And it is so bad. It's so bad. And to be like, we, the church, must repent of not liking those people who are not in the church. I mean, like, what is that? It's
Yeah,
so
it's very awkward.
terrifying that this is how, Anyways, the reason I bring that up is only because some of those things are so frustrating. You know, when you see it, you're like, what? Like,
Yeah.
how? Or the hilarity of whatever Tuesday that was when we certainly didn't hear from white people.
Oh.
When the whole world was white people putting black squares everywhere and yelling at everyone to put black squares everywhere and fighting about black squares because we're not going to talk today. That's going to be our day of silence. Hardly even noticed a white person anywhere when they... It was like,
Yep.
well, if y'all couldn't be a little more excessive in this... Yeah,
Ostentatious.
right. So
Yeah.
weird and bad. Anyways, all of this is just to say that all of those efforts are just so monumentally lame compared to the actual unity we're offered in Christ.
Right.
That for a Christian to get, like, industriously huffy and busy about them is to reveal how little you think of the blood of Christ.
Right.
Because you are acting like, well, that was a nice try, Jesus, but until I post a black square,
Right,
things
that's-
aren't going to be, things
That's when
can't be
Olive
fixed.
really
It's like,
fixed it.
you know what will actually fix things is when we act like we know Christ. That will do something for us.
Mhm. And that really does abolish all of the enmity. That is, I mean, it's impossible to have humans without developing animosities and hatreds and bitternesses and resentments, and they run deep and they run every direction.
Randomly?
Every direction.
Because
Because if you have different colors of people living next to each other, they can develop a hatred based on that. If you have a brother and sister living in the same house, sharing the DNA,
or a fat person and a fit person.
They can start hating each other. That, I mean, it is so like...
It's because sin is actually pervasive.
And
it doesn't have to have
it's in every human heart.
Right.
And so it really can't be fixed outside of the blood of Christ, which is really the only
and it's
possible...
and within the blood of Christ, it can't remain.
Yeah.
When people are cleansed by the blood, they cannot also hold on to their weird animosities.
Right. And so obviously any kind of racial hatred or whatever is completely condemned by Scripture. But we do know the solution to it. And it's not what we're...
Public activism and do-goodery. But
And-
even this is not do-goodery. It's like do-battery.
Yeah.
Do weird
Yeah.
things and accuse others. But the real point in all of this, I think, is that it's so healthy to just be like, okay, has the world gotten weird enough in 2020? And I'm willing to say, yes, it has. Has it gotten weird enough to tempt all kinds of Christians to reactive fear instead of proactive faithfulness?
Right.
And that if you look at what is it that we're called by God to do? It's like, let's think of some things. In everything, rejoice in everything, right? That's one of the, like, rejoice specifically when people are lying about you and hating you because of the gospel. Like, not like, well, that's because you forgot to grieve with them. You're there, like, it's not, you're supposed to rejoice when this kind of thing happens. You're supposed to be practicing hospitality and respecting your husband and loving your neighbor.
Casting your cares upon the Lord.
Your cares. You're supposed to be disciplining your children. You're supposed to be rejoicing in the Lord, walking in the light, having fellowship with one another.
Yeah.
Those are the things that we're supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to be...
And if Christians could act like that in the middle of cultural pandemonium and chaos, that's exactly the kind of thing that the outside world will see and say, how can
What?
I have that sort of
Hope.
peace in this storm? And
What does it mean? Why are you like this?
And-
How can you be happy?
right, and if you're racing around in a, frantic fluster all the time, why would they want some of what you've got?
Or they can't discern any difference between how you're living and how they're living. And I think there's a lot of places out there right now where they're, like, if you have to go to the store, you're kind of going to, like, a boarded up, weird place full of people with masks on. Like a fear-dominated place. This is your big opportunity to show the hope that you have, to not be fearful, to be joyful, and to be rejoicing, to be actively living in the faith that you profess, and to be just doing what the Lord called you to do. And it's kind of like there's no bigger way to share the gospel than to believe the gospel, because if you're actually believing the gospel, you can't help but be sharing the gospel, because that's what it's doing. It's like, I actually believe we're safe right now. I believe that we're in God's hands. I believe these things, which
and that
means
he
that
controls
you're
all of
projecting
it, down to
the
goose.
He's taking out Fabio's pride.
It's like if he's controlling even the geese, we know that he has this thing under control.
Yes.
It feels very Psalm 2 though, doesn't it? The nations raging.
Why do the heathen nations rage?
Vainly
the
rage.
peoples plot vain things.
Oh, vain things they're plotting. That's
against
true.
the Lord and against his anointed.
Yeah, it's true.
Why? Oh, wait. Yeah.
But
I can't keep quoting that unless we try to just
Sing
burst
it.
into song.
Maybe we'll pass on that one.
I'll tell you one of the worst things about being part of a psalm singing people, which there's a lot of real blessings there, but is finding out that you learned the alto part and you can't sing the dang song without the other people.
Yeah.
Sometimes I try and be like, the one that goes, and my kids will be like, you're singing the alto. And I'm like, I was thinking that sounded like a really boring melody. a lot of D&E, but not a lot of other stuff happening. Anyways, my point is that's why I'm not bursting into singing Psalm 2, because I'm not even sure I could.
Right. Well, there you go.
Well, I guess we said every
We
word
said
we
that.
have
We've
today.
got it.
So, what projects are you about right now?
Well, I have been in my garden actually kind of a lot.
Checking on kale.
I'm hoping to make it grow. We'll see.
It looks
if
awesome.
will.
So I think it is growing.
And I have, I don't know yet.
I'm the one who hasn't won any wins in the gardening department lately.
Yeah, well, you just moved in, I feel like.
Yeah, last September. Yeah, fresh.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember that? Just last September, all my worldly possessions were out in the rain and the dirt.
That's right. They've recovered since
Yeah,
then,
we kind
so
of
that's
bounced
good.
back real cautiously.
Uh-huh.
I joke that we've completed phase 1 of moving into a big new house, and we've moved into phase 2 of moving into a big new house. Phase 1 was that you move in all of the things that you saved that you might need in your new house. And phase 2 is you get rid of all the things that you saved for your new house that you're realizing you don't need.
Didn't want.
I hope
anyways.
that phase 3 is the phase where I buy a couch for the place that doesn't have one.
That's fun. I did order some more wallpaper for my front room, and so when that arrives, but then that's like endlessly delayed because of COVID. So we'll see when that wends its way in. I have to do that, and Ben is still making me drawers like a champion, and I now have a grand total of 6, you guys. And he's about to have 3 more done, so I almost have 9.
So fun.
But I did find marble. It's happening, I think. So anyways, that's my big exciting update, is I have 2 enormous slabs of marble. Like
Nice.
1,000 pounds each. So that'll
Nice.
be the next
Lena
question.
she didn't buy it. Lena got my loom warped and is weaving 2 dish towels that are very pretty.
Ooh, that's fun.
But we've been in a weirdly not making it happen with the loom since we moved into our house. You know, when everything gets disrupted and stuff, it's like taking a while. I got my quarantine quilt pieced all together.
Cool.
Now I just have to get backing and get that done. And I am sewing my daughter's speed cleaning aprons.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Weirdly, I just told Hero today that I need to go sew myself an apron. I really want a white linen apron. Don't ask me why. It just occurred to me that I want it. So.
Well, you should be do one of those classic granny style ones. It's like almost a dress that you put on over, you know, where it crosses in the back.
Yeah,
and then
I kind of love those. Kind of love those. I'm also thinking about designing a bunch of dish towels for my new kitchen. That's kind of something that's been rattling about.
But my next set of things to weave, I get really derailed on all the things that you could be weaving. It's really easy to then move ambitiously beyond your own skill set or materials lists.
Yeah.
But this next one is it's a 13 towel warp, so it's as long as 13, and you change the treadling and the color, so you can do 13 hand woven towels.
Okay, that's awesome.
In all different patterns and colors, and I have all of the yarn for it that is a cotton linen blend, so it's called Cotton. It's just a really wonderful hand that, like, it feels awesome. Okay. So, just telling you.
That sounds amazing. Well,
that's my next plan.
I ordered a bunch of fabric for the president's dinner that's coming up in August. The table linens that we do for that, I designed and I ordered it, but this time I ordered it from a company in China, and I'm kind of excited about it because I think it's going to be more sort of color fast, and it is a dish towel company. This is what I'm saying. And so I was realizing that opens up a whole world of possibilities of like, what if I designed a bunch of dish towels?
Guess what else leads me astray on weaving? Really, this is fun. I haven't done it, guys. This is what's the word that I'm looking for here? Not ambitious. This is someday things.
Crazy? Is that the word?
No, just a thing that someday I like to think I will have done.
Okay.
You know? Bath towels. These huge, big, like hand-woven cotton, big
like those Turkish
bath
ones? Like a woven one? Not like terry, but like...
No, yeah, they're not like terry, but they're not like the Turkish ones. Well, I mean, maybe they are like a Turkish one. They have more of a pattern on them. They're like a thicker hand-woven.
Okay, well, that sounds kind of fun.
I was like, probably I need that. Probably we should have those someday. We'll see.
Well, I'm not planning to hand weave my dish towels for my kitchen. I just would like to design the print.
I am, Becca.
Have them printed, then they're duplicatable. I can just order more if I need to.
Yeah, but I would get sick of having the same one.
Not the same one. You have to do a whole variety pack.
A whole flight of them.
Yeah. Don't you think that'd
be
fun? All right,
well, try me out. Give them to me for my birthday, and I'll see if I like it.
You can weave me a towel, and I'll see if I like that.
I will someday. I did once give you one, didn't I?
A dish towel, yes, but not a bath towel.
Oh, I'm not weaving you a bath towel. That's too far on my horizon. Luke and I have been married. It will be 17 years this summer.
Yeah.
And I informally put a pin in the plans to weave a colonial coverlet by our 20th anniversary.
Oh my goodness.
But the times are coming by fast, because that was when I got my loom, that I was like, no problem, I'll be good enough to do that by then, but
that'll be easy.
It might not come together as fast as I hoped. So what I'm saying is I won't have time between now and our 20th anniversary to weave you a towel, Becca, because the weaving takes more work than...
That's hilarious.
But it's so fun, but it's so fundamental, like old, like, you know, when Luke and I took that, we were doing pottery with Mike Wendt in Lewiston. Yeah. I really like him. He's fun because but one of his points that he keeps making is that, like, you can't, like, if it works, you're doing pottery. Like, you're not, everybody gets so into how things are done in the ultimate way and the right way. This is true of like sourdough, pottery, like gardening, all of these things. It's so true. It's actually just a craft that people had to make up ways to do it for as long as it's been happening. And there really is not like a wrong way to do it if it's working.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with weaving, is that there's so much variety in how you can do it. There's not one way to do it. It's not like threading a sewing machine where you don't innovate and use your brain on that and do new techniques on the tensions and stuff because it was designed to do one thing. But it's a more, I don't know, it's like more like a mental puzzle for yourself to figure out. Like, this is a human relationship to trying to make something.
Right.
I like those things.
Yeah, it's true. And now that we're in summer and it's like you have to sort of shift gears, in the foods that you're eating, we threw away our grill, like, right when the weather was warming up, because it was totally like horrible and old and broken, and it like we couldn't even get it to turn on, so we just chucked it. So we're completely without a grill right now, and that really puts the squish on being able to do summery foods in my mind, because
we got a Traeger
smoker.
It's like a grill that's like what we did the ribs on Sit for Sabbath.
Okay. Yeah,
that
it was really good.
It was, but it's also the thing that Luke does, not the thing that I intuit.
I don't know.
I don't think you throw chicken breasts on that for dinner. Like you kind of, it's for like pork, large.
Okay.
I mean brisket and ribs and like.
Do you have another grill?
No.
Oh, see, yeah, and I'm just
I'm
finding
afraid
myself
that whatever we have, we'll have to crowd it into that corner down below our house where it won't blow
the wind.
away.
You have to sink an anchor into the
Before
bedrock.
we figure out how to really make a safe space, you know how some people bury their trampolines? We could do that with our grill. So you could just have it like at the floor level, a little lid.
You really need the full like built-in outdoor stone kitchen thing.
You make a great argument for that.
Yeah.
You do.
It's the wind piece.
I had a dream that I won $10 million.
Wow. I wonder if it was prophetic, Rach.
Yeah, well, I don't think so.
Might have tapped into something.
No, because it was a riddle. It was a riddle we all had to figure out. It was like if you figure out this riddle, you'll win $10 million. But it turned out that I was able to figure it out because I had purchased a $5 shower curtain from McDonald's. And there was some kind of a message in the matte laissez of the shower curtain. Anyways, the point that's funny is that in my dream, I sort of raced right on by why I won $10 million. Interesting tidbit. It was the matte laissez sent me a message. And I found that there was a zipper pouch hidden in the shower curtain that had a hacky sack in it.
Sounds pretty true to life. It makes you wonder why your brain, when you let it off its chain, that's where it goes.
No, especially because you know what? I really don't enjoy hearing other people's dreams, so I'm really sorry that I'm doing this to you. But it included that the riddle referenced paradise, but it was a spoken riddle.
Okay.
And I suddenly realized what if it is pair of dice and on the matte laissez there was a pair of dice, and so I unzipped the secret pouch and found the hacky sack. But the part that's so funny is I won a ton of money in my dream, and that part we just zoomed right past, and then the whole rest of the dream was my normal life, trying to figure out like the wind problem at our house, and like how are we gonna figure this out with the garage?
Well,
we
with
better
$10
do that.
million, you could figure it out more easily.
Exactly. It was like suddenly my problems are just made clear. I can
That's
just.
really funny.
Yep. Sorry. Oh, I don't mean to tell my dreams to people, but it was a funny one. I was like, if any of you are dream readers out there, don't read too deep into this one, please. Oh, I feel like we meant to talk about Grace Agenda.
We probably
Should
did.
we? Do you know details? Can we not really do that?
We can. I mean, what sort of details are you needing? Because
Well, I was realizing I don't actually know. I don't have my phone, so I can't look it up.
It's in August, and I know that August 12th is the President's Dinner. So, if anybody out there wants to attend the President's Dinner, so there's that, and then the next day is NSA graduation, and then it is NSA convocation, I think the next day, and the beginning of Grace Agenda. I think it's Wednesday night is the President's Dinner. Thursday is graduation, and that's
and Friday is the
David Bonson is going to be speaking there, and then it's the next morning, Friday morning, is convocation, and then the beginning, that's when we're doing our conference, I think, is Friday.
Women's pre-conference.
And then Saturday all day is Grace Agenda, and it's going to be a great time. There's lots of
Friday
extra...
is the open house at my house, the What Have You open house.
Yes, and there will just be loads of parties all over town, you guys.
Yeah, Saturday is
so many things. It'll be great. I'm really thinking it's going to be a fun week. So
it will be fun. So if you've been feeling especially isolated, away from, like if you're somewhere where things have just been hard and sad, I would encourage you to consider this, because it is true that the joy of the Lord is our strength, and being with other believers is a important gift that God gives us, you know. And if you're feeling discouraged and beat down and struggling along, the conference is on practical Christianity. It's like the 101 of what it means to be a Christian and how you go about doing that. And hopefully the community in that time, it is a really warm and vibrant and busy and hilarious Christian community. Yeah. And we love to have other Christians come share in it and be a part of it.
You know, usually Canon Press, there's a evening party,
it's an after hours party.
Then it's a prospective student time.
I think there's even a singles thing, maybe what is it? Maybe a Sunday. I'm not sure when that is.
I don't know.
There's
and
even
then of course
a singles
there's church
thing
on Sunday.
Church, lots of fun stuff. So seriously consider coming to visit us
and come get a glimpse into the weirdness of North Idaho. And it will be like right now we're looking out, we're sitting up on a hill, and everything is looking so beautifully green. It's all the hills are gorgeous green. But by August, it's going to be getting ready for harvest. Everything's going to be
usually
gold.
Is harvest. You might be here for harvest moons.
Yeah, it'll just be living in
beautiful.
a giant sea of wheat.
Even if it's super hot in the daytime in August, it still gets cool at night. This is a real feature of Idaho that we are proud of.
I remember the first time I was down south.
Yeah.
And I walked outside after dark. I was just insulted.
That's how I felt. I felt personally hurt when I was in Virginia in the summer. And it was just muggy-tastic all day. And I hadn't really thought through it that I was the whole time just waiting for the sun to go down.
The night.
I was like, as soon as the sun goes down, some of this nonsense will clear up. And then the sun went down and I was like, what? This is not changed. Nothing changed.
I think it was on that same trip that we were up in the mountains and there was a river and got in and it was like,
why is your river hot?
Warm. And it felt really, really sketchy to me to have a warm river. Because here, even on the hottest day, if you try to get in a lake or a river, you're gonna go.
You jump in a lake and you'll be like, whoa! Like, oh my word! Because we keep our water chilled. We keep it fresh here in Idaho.
Yeah. So anyway, it would be great to come in August, everyone. That is the time that you should.
Yes, and we would love to have you, and you could love to laugh at us while we have too much on our plates during Gray's Agenda.
Right. There will be a certain harried thing
glassy-eyed
going on.
It'll be like
we're looking right now over kind of like the backside of the golf course, and I will say, if you're a golfer, I think this is like a fun, because it's so hilly in Moscow that it's a very hilly golf course, and I've heard people be really surprised about that when they come from other places.
We one time went sledding on the golf course.
You're not allowed to do that. It's very, very frowned upon.
We were allowed to.
Back in the day when
there was
children.
Enough snow coverage. No, it was like at a certain amount of snow coverage you were allowed to sled on it. Okay. When it was in college, and a bunch of us met. It was late. It was like a midnight sledding run.
Okay.
And as we all stood at the top of a hill, looking down it, wondering if this was a good idea or a poor idea, because I think there was a fence down at the bottom. It looked like there were some question marks.
Yeah.
And a guy comes just running from behind as we all stand there looking out to see if this was a good sledding place, and just dives on a runner sled.
Okay.
And it was sitting there. So he just goes shooting off this hill in the darkness on a runner sled, as we all just stood in silence to watch how it went. And he hit the golf cart trail and which was completely invisible, and the runner sled jumped with huge rooster tails of sparks coming, because it was that was like the most unexpected thing, as we all stood there in the dark, and it just was silent, like he just silently shoots down and the big spray of sparks, and then he carried on into the darkness. It was very beautiful and very weird, and very hard to tell what had happened for a while. Like, we were like, what?
That is so funny.
Yeah, anyways. But you can't do that when you come for Gray's Agenda. It won't be on the table.
One thing is, after the fields are harvested, remember where you get like a cardboard box, and you
like
go
a refrigerator box,
slide down the stubble.
Yeah, and
You've never had a worse time than that.
It is so painful, but also so fast, and like allergy nation.
Oh, yeah. Like by the time you get to the bottom, your face has swollen up. You can't breathe. You're sneezing.
But you've never gone so fast down anything in your whole life, because the dry chaff on cardboard is an unstoppable speed.
But
and every dirt clod is with you. Every dirt clod
cushioning. Snow gives you a nice smooth surface.
And somehow you feel covered in cheatgrass, and like you feel so beat up. I think I've never had an allergy event like I've had.
Yeah, it's the worst. So guys, if you're here after harvest, stay away from cardboard on hills.
Unless you're wanting to treat yourself to the worst time ever.
Well, but also because you're probably in shorts and you're all sliced up.
And you're kind of sweaty because it's hot, but then you're hitting the chaff so hard.
But I mean, all the stubble is like hurting.
Oh, it's not good. It's not good at all. Why have we done this more than one time?
Because it's the thing.
It's not good, but you have to, on principle, you have to check if it was fun. It might have been fun. Yeah, one time on the sledding, we should probably stop this. My brother and his friend wanted to put a couch on skis for peak sledding experience.
Not only did they want to, they did.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they got the skis, but then they felt like they couldn't figure out how to get a couch on it that would not kill you at the like if it wrecked. Then you'd be wrecking with a flying couch, which
I
didn't
remember
seem...
them having a couch on skis.
They built instead the platform that they were going to put the couch on, and then realized that actually this would work fine without the couch. So we had 4 skis with these long bench across it and a footrest. And we got 13 people on this thing. So we're at the top of a really big hill, also in the middle of the night, probably, when we did this. And it was a big hill, 13 people on it. We're like, let's see how this thing does. And it had a little footrest. And as soon as it started, you could tell that we were going to peak speed on this thing. Like, it was so much weight on so few skis. Starts flying down the hill. But the footrest is shaving the top layer of the snow off straight into our eyeballs. So you're going incredibly fast with a straight, it was like putting your face in the output of a snowblower, you know, like just going and getting your face right on in there. So immediately everyone flings their arms over their faces. So everyone is ducking their heads. And it was like, it's weird. It's almost like a spiritual experience to be with 13 people in the middle of the night, in the dark, flying down a hill in total silence. And everybody's like buried their faces. And we shoot down this hill and halfway up the next hill and then start going backwards, like we're like swinging down the hill the other direction. And it was amazing. It was a monumental piece of engineering. We needed a major windshield on that thing because it got us going real fast, and it was a nice group time that we had. But I think at the end it was sort of like everyone was like, whoa. It was not one of the rides where people are laughing the whole way. It was just like in total silence we descend into the darkness.
And I feel like we could bring this full circle by saying it was Apollo's chariot.
It was. We didn't
but
hit
without
a goose.
the goose.
Well, and nobody was dressed up like a Greek goddess. We weren't trying to do anything
Maybe
like
next
that.
time you can do
yeah,
that.
We'll try that another time. Yeah. Well, anyways,
Well,
guys,
that was a random collection of things.
this was sort of this episode featured heavily some flashbacks. The flashback episode. Yes, good.
Yeah,
that's what
all
we
right.
did.
Well,
We'll see you
guys.
next time. And until then, keep on task and do the things God actually wants you doing.
Exactly.
Do it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's edition of What Have You. This audio is brought to you in part by New St. Andrews College. Are you wondering if any college will be open this fall? Look no further than New St. Andrews College. Graduating leaders who shape culture, living faithfully under the lordship of Jesus Christ.